Good evening. The time is 7 p.m. and today is Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. My name is Fred Chase and I'll call to order this meeting of the Bridgewater Town Council. If the councilors would kindly join me in a salute to our flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I thank you very much. That was a particularly enthusiastic and vocal pledge recitation. I thank those of you in attendance who joined us for that matter. Just as a reminder, this meeting is being aired live and recorded for future broadcast. And it has come to the council's attention that there are several members of the public who are previous military, who are military veterans, had passed recently, and accordingly, I'd like to ask your indulgence toward commemorating their passing. And firstly, we know that Mr. Robert S. Smiley, a veteran, he had passed on the 27th of March, and Mr. Smalley served in the United States Army during the Korean War. And we are further informed that Mr. David A. Asef, he had passed on the 25th of March of this year, and Mr. Asef served in the United States Army National Guard during the Vietnam War. And I would ask, please, if those of you in attendance would join us in a moment of silence in honor of those veterans. I thank you very much. The first item of business this evening is the approval of minutes for our council meeting of March 21st. I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? And seeing none, we are all in attendance. We can participate by voice vote tonight. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I see none. Thank you very much. Moving on to announcements, I do have one brief announcement this evening. As the councilors and I think many residents here in town know, we have scheduled, I should say town management and the council have scheduled a session to take place on April 11th on the Bridgewater State University campus for the purpose of discussing matters related to our downtown revitalization efforts. And it's something I think that is certainly very much in need, and we're all very much looking forward to that. Some members of the public may have become aware of it through emails or just word from neighbors, so there's been some discussion about it, and I just wanted to point out one important fact, which is that it is being conducted as a council workshop, and what that really means is that while it is a publicly posted meeting, it is not intended for public participation or public comment. It will be viewable, but more importantly, just in coming weeks, we will be planning in various ways additional avenues for public input on this matter. Actually, I would like to, just for a moment, with the council's indulgence, invite our Community and Economic Development Director, Mr. Bob Bruley, if you would kindly offer a few remarks in connection with this announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President and council members. Yes, the workshop will be live streamed on Facebook. It is our intention immediately following the workshop to start the public engagement process. That might be at Little League games, soccer fields, hockey games, in the schools. Getting public input into this is very important to us. Having participation and understanding what the community is looking for, having the community understand where we think this should go is important. So I look forward to that. I'm encouraged and enthused that people actually wanted to come to the workshop outside of the council. So I think this is going to be a really great opportunity for the town to start to realize some of the initiatives that have been talked about for many years now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rulli. I appreciate your comments. Moving on, we do have a proclamation this evening, and I will read to those in attendance. This is a proclamation to celebrate Arbor Day in the town of Bridgewater. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees in our town increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, the Town Council of the Town of Bridgewater, Massachusetts, does hereby proclaim April 28th, 2023 as Arbor Day in the town of Bridgewater, and urges all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support the efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And we further urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. I thank you very much for that. I'll ask the councilors before you leave this evening if you would kindly join me in signing this proclamation. We have the original right here, and you're already beating me to the punch. That's great. Thank you. We can move on to Citizen Open Forum, and I would ask if there are citizens who care to step forward to address the council, please do so. I think I noticed Mrs. Holmes, if you'd like to step forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, council members, and thank you, President Chase, for addressing and bringing forward this proclamation. I really hope you will all support it. My name is Nicole Holmes. I'm at 80 Old Farm Road, but I'm also a member of Bridgewater's newly formed tree committee. So I just really wanted to come forward tonight and talk a little bit about some of our early action items, one of which is getting the town of Bridgewater to be designated once again as a tree city. We understand that at some point we were Tree City. There might be some remnant signs, but we are no longer a tree city. Basically, if you are not aware of what it is, Tree City is an awards program that provides public attention and national recognition for local commitments to community trees and forests. It's sponsored by the Arbor Day Foundation and administrated in Massachusetts by the Department of Conservation and Recreation's Urban and Community Forestry Program. So based on early research, we have discovered that there are 4 standards that the town needs to meet in order to be designated as a tree city. 1, we must have a tree board or department, and the tree committee can count towards that goal. So check mark number 1. Secondly, we need a tree care ordinance. And the current shade tree ordinance that the town has, we reviewed with DCR, that is acceptable and would check that box. Even if it will be edited or amended in the future, the current ordinance that we have for this year of 2023 would count. We need to be able to prove that we have a minimum community forestry annual budget of $2 per capita. And That we talked a little bit about. That can include any work related to the management of community trees, administrative costs, equipment costs, in-kind services. So we're still kind of digging into that, but some back of napkin calculations with the DPW, roadway superintendent Paul DaCosta, we think that we easily cover that. And the fourth goal that the town must meet is to have an Arbor Day observance and proclamation. So this proclamation will be an extremely important step and part of that item that we just need in order to be able to get the paperwork in and move forward. And in addition to all the perks and the honors and the signs that we will get, there are a lot of benefits, including the ability for the town to actually apply for challenge grants once we're a tree city. And those can be anywhere from $7,000 to $50,000 matching grants that can go towards, management plans, our tree committee, tree surveys, inventories. There's lots of good things. They also provide some training for staff in the town or members of the tree committee or others. So it certainly seems like a great program, and I'm really hopeful that you'll all support the proclamation, and we will keep you posted on the Tree City application, which is due by December 31st. So, thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Mrs. Holmes. Are there other citizens who care to step forward? If you'd approach the podium, please. Mrs. Flesch-Cordero?
Thank you. Rebecca Flesch-Cordero, Deerfield Drive. I wanted to thank you once again. I try to do this every time I speak. It's wonderful to be in this country where citizens have an opportunity to speak at the local government level and beyond. I'm excited to hear about the proclamation for the Arbor Day. I think that's a great thing. I want to thank the Tree Committee for all the work that they're doing. I also am anticipating a first reading of the resolution for the Juneteenth flag raising and hoping that that will go smoothly and that that will be approved. And I'm also anticipating a second reading and a vote on the Pride flag resolution. And that's the real reason that I'm here. I'm hoping that we can easily and without too much trouble strike the word gay from, I think it was petition 2023-027, which is currently says it's a resolution in recognition of Gay Pride Month. And after the 321 meeting, it was brought to our attention that use of the word gay in that context is exclusionary and excludes and is exclusionary to other LGBTQ plus people. Striking the word gay will allow us to rectify an unintended slight as we're all learning about and being sensitive to others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there other citizens who care to step forward? Kindly introduce yourself and identify your street.
Hi, yes, Laureen Powers, 41 Sunrise Drive, and I'm a member of BCCR. I'm here for a few reasons this evening, but primarily to inform all of you that BCCR will be holding a standout this coming Saturday, April 8th, from 10 to 11. Our focus is to bring attention to the persistent and escalating issues related to gun violence. BCCR has been holding standouts since 2016, when our group first organized. The past couple of years, we have been standing out at least once a month, sometimes twice, because unfortunately, the issues affecting social justice and civil rights are constant and increasing. We've held signs in support of reproductive justice, Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ rights, and against anti-Semitism. We do this because it helps keep these issues in the forefront for those who live and/or work in the Bridgewater community. Our goal with our standouts is to educate and motivate. We're hopeful that our presence may encourage individuals driving by to possibly contact their local legislators in support of the issues I previously mentioned, or to possibly bring their children to our Pride flag raising, which we are hoping will be approved this evening. We also feel that our standouts send a positive message to the community at large, that Bridgewater is a welcoming community that has a focus on diversity and inclusion. In closing, I invite all of you to stand with us this Saturday or at a future standout. Although we do occasionally have impromptu standouts, we usually make a decision at our monthly meetings as to the focus and date for the following month. I'd be happy to send that information to Debbie so she can share with all of you. And for those who are not aware, we stand in the sidewalk in front of the Walgreens parking lot and then spread out at different points in front of the common just to kind of catch every car that's driving by, and on a Saturday between 10 and 11, there's a lot of traffic there. Okay. Also, you are happy to bring your own sign, but you do not need to do that. Thanks to the creativity of Ren and Domingo, we always have extras, and I believe Fred and Mark can attest to that. If you would like to view a few pictures from our standouts, as well as learn what other events we are planning or involved with, please go to our website. Just Google Bridgewater Communities for Civil Rights. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Powers. I appreciate it. Are there other citizens who care to step forward? Yes. Sam Baumgarten, welcome.
Sam Baumgarten, 60 Short Street. Good evening, councilors, and Mr. Dutton and Mr. Rollins. First, I want to thank you for your support of the tree program. I like my trees and my shade and my fresh air, so I'm happy that you're supporting that. Over the past few years, thanks to your boldness and your sensitivity to human rights, you and other iterations of the council have made Bridgewater a more welcoming community by declaring your support for Pride Month, Juneteenth, and Indigenous Peoples Day. And by doing so, you have set an example for other towns and other governmental leaders. This is a wonderful thing. But now I suggest that you need to continue setting the example because the work is not done. You cannot rest on your laurels because, as I'm sure you're aware, incidents of hate continue unabated. You must speak up again and again as long as needed. As both Ms. Cordero and I noted at the last council meeting, silence is not an option. This message was recently repeated in a full-page Globe ad sponsored by the World Jewish Congress, and I brought it just for a little show and tell. A full-page open letter to President Biden asking him, as the leader of our country, to speak out against the anti-Semitic acts that we have seen. And to quote from the letter, this is not just a Democratic or Republican issue. It does not come only from the left or from the right. It's not just a problem coming from non-Jews. Many Jews going back in time were also silent at the time when they needed to speak up. Also, recently in the Globe, there was a letter about an incident of white supremacist graffiti in Laconia, New Hampshire. And in that town, both the Human Relations Committee and the mayor spoke out against this incident. Now, some of you may see this request as a little bit outside your purview, but it cannot be because all human beings are within your purview. So I and other BCCR members, we need more allies. So please, as a council, make more motions, make more resolutions, repost the existing proclamation and read it regularly, and then share these with others. Put them on the Facebook page, put them on your website. These resolutions about the Pride flag and Juneteenth, put them out there so people who look at our website will see them and not have to hunt through and see that Bridgewater right up front is a welcoming place. So I urge you to continue to speak out, to stand out, as Mrs. Powers invited you to do. And as I learned recently, you need to remember, which is a little scary thought, is that advocacy is a lifelong activity. It doesn't end as tired as we may get. And if you lead, others will follow. So I hope you'll join us on Saturday. And I also hope that some of the people sitting behind me, especially the young folks, will join us and start standing out with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baumgarten. Are there other citizens who care to address the council? Dr. Hunt, thank you.
Carlton Hunt, Austin Street. Thank you for doing the Arbor Day. As a native Nebraskan, I understand the planting of trees is incredibly important. Also, I want to thank the councilors that have put this order before you for the energy aggregation. I just thank you for stepping up to the plate, and hopefully it will go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hunt. Any other citizens for citizen comment? And seeing none, I think we will move on. We have no appointments, nor hearings, nor license transactions this evening, nor presentations. We can move directly to the town manager's report. And I would like to turn it over to Mr. Dutton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few items on my town manager's report tonight. The fire station planning update, that planning work is still ongoing. The architectural work is ongoing. We are still on track for a September site work bid package and then a general bid package very soon after that. We also are taking care of one minor wetland delineation piece that's being completed this month and will be presented to Conservation Commission at their next meeting. So that's really all I have on fire, but anybody have a question on fire station, I'm happy to answer.
Yes, Councilor McKinnon.
In my third meeting, I brought up how the price is going to keep going up, as it has been. And I rewatched the meeting, and I kind of realized I worded things wrong when I'm bringing up local and all. The only reason why I brought up all these local companies, the property that abuts it is a tree farm company that will cut down some trees and clear it out. You go by CVS, you go by Rite Aid, when they redo things, they rent out these storage containers. Once we get the architectural design done and all that, maybe we should think about buying some of the TPO or the rubber for the roof, get some HVAC if it's gonna be brick. The longer we wait, the more it's gonna cost the citizens, is all I really wanna say with that. I know it's a process, but if we can look into maybe renting out some storage containers and filling them up with some construction materials and all that, because, I mean, every half a year, every quarter, it's gonna go up at least 15 to 20%, the price, in the recession we are in, because we are in one by definition, so that's all I really wanted to say when it comes to that.
Those are great points, and I think to your point, I think that's partly one of the reasons that we want to make sure that we get a the site work bid package out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons the Mitchell School came in at the price it came in, much below estimate, was precisely what you're talking about. General contractor was able to go out and secure
material
the
ahead.
supplies very quickly. So,
Yeah.
point well taken.
That's it for me, thank you.
Thank you both. Are there more questions for the town manager about the fire project? And seeing none, Mr. Dutton, could you comment on the High Street Bridge?
High Street Bridge, this is appearing on your agenda every 2 weeks, as promised. Just give us an opportunity, mostly to remind the council, also remind the public that High Street will be closed at the High Street Bridge on June 15th. That timeline still works for the contractor, and would be reopening on October 15th. Or somewhere around October 15th. We have finalized a notification plan as well as a detour plan that certainly will have some inconvenience tied to it, but will add a little bit of pressure to the downtown, but spare Oak Street from the heavy use that may happen, potentially happen there. So we do have a series of press releases being done. We also have a taped public notification, and we'll have electronic signboards deployed about a month prior to the closure, just to let the public know who drive by there on a frequent basis that the bridge will be out, and that portion of roadway will essentially be closed. So, so I think that's what I have on High Street, but
Thank
happy to
you. Are
answer
there
questions.
questions from the council with regard to the High Street matter? Yes, Councilor Moore.
Through you to the town manager. Maybe just a clarification on the press releases. I think there are sort of two pieces of the news. One is, why are we doing the project and what is it? And the second is, how will it impact the roadway there and passage through? Could you just clarify in the PR process, are we talking about both of those things or just the closure?
So we started the PR process by trying to define why this was being done, and we have pushed that out. We will continue to push that out. As we get closer and closer to the actual closure, the focus will be more and more on the closure, so that it really, by the beginning of June, it'll simply be, please be aware, road's going to be closed at this point, June 15th, and that's the message. The immediate message. The several month before message is like, why are we doing this, and what's the history of it? So we have pushed that one out, and we'll continue to push out a little bit of that, but that'll be less and less as we get closer to the closure.
Okay. I think just a point of reference, I have noticed that as we talk about the road closure, there are more people sort of paying attention, and they might not have caught the first part of the message. So if there is some way to just sort of keep both of them current on the website or
Oh, yeah.
Facebook or something, that would be great.
Oh, yeah. Nope, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you both. Are there further questions with respect to that matter? I see none. Mr. Dutton, if you could illuminate us as to the Bristol Plymouth debt exclusion vote?
Absolutely. Again, a reminder, there is a town election on April 22nd at the Bridgewater Middle School on Mount Prospect, and it is critically important for folks to get out and vote. It's always important to get out and vote. This year, there is a debt exclusion question to fund the Bristol Plymouth Regional Technical School, of which Bridgewater is a member. A yes vote will fund a debt exclusion, allow us to debt exclude that portion of the debt attributable to Bridgewater. We estimate that over the course of the bond, it'll be roughly $1.2 million per year. A no vote on the debt exclusion does not mean that the school would not be built, because the school will be built and we will be assessed. So essentially, that would force us to cut about $1.2 million from our annual budget. And obviously, we would be cutting municipal services in that event. So it is critically important. Get out and vote the debt exclusion on April 22nd. But certainly, again, happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Councilor Wood.
Thank you. You mentioned the 1.2 million, if it's not voted on, would come out of operational funds. But have you and the finance department worked up an impact statement to that effect yet? I mean, more details so people understand that it doesn't just come out of operations, it comes out of police, fire, school.
Exactly. It comes out of people, essentially, since over 90% of our budget is people. $1.2 million cut to our operations would mean layoffs, and yeah, we are working on it.
Have you formalized that statement yet?
We haven't formalized it quite yet, but it'll be
I
done
think
by the end of this week.
Same as Councilor Moore said, I think now is the time to distribute that information, given that we're only a couple weeks away from the election.
Yep.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you. Are there further questions from the councilors? Yes, Councilor Moore.
Through you to the town manager, just to pile on, I think I have spoken with some people about this, and I think there are people that believe that there's a third option of if we vote no, we just don't have to pay. And I just want to emphasize the point that our earlier vote on this said Bridgewater will pay its part. And now it's a question of, do we pay by cutting staff, or do we pay through the debt exclusion process? So thanks.
We'll try to, once we get that statement out and issued, we'll try to make it as clear as possible. Debt exclusions for a lot of people are confusing, but we'll try to make that as crystal clear as possible.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lindy.
Through you to the town manager. Would you be willing to do some PR about this if I were able to secure the services over at BTV so we can educate the community about the debt exclusion?
Absolutely. I don't call it PR. Counselors can advocate. I can't really advocate necessarily one way or the other, but I can certainly explain.
Right.
And we want to make sure it's crystal clear to the public what exactly they're voting on. So I will take you up on that, absolutely.
Okay, I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? And seeing none. We have scheduled no discussions for this evening. Are there any committee reports that the councilors might like to make us aware of? And I see none. We can move right to legislation for action. And the first item is petition P 2023-027, a resolution in recognition of Gay Pride Month. And I'd like to recognize Councilor Moore.
If I could, I'd like to make a motion to strike the word gay.
I would second that motion. And as it was explained to us earlier by Mrs. Flesh-Cordero, Bridgewater Citizens for Civil Rights have brought forward this matter on petition to the council. So it is indeed their measure that they're proposing us to adopt. And they've, I think, made an appropriate case for the deletion of what was an inadvertent inclusion of the word gay in the measure as it stands before us. So I would ask if all those in favor of deleting the word as they've requested kindly vote aye. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Wood.
Question
Yes.
on the amendment on discussion.
Yes.
So striking it everywhere it appears, correct?
Yes, that's correct. From the title or throughout the body of the measure. That's correct.
So
Yes, yes, Councilor Gallagher.
are we replacing it with the LGBTQ?
No, it's actually, well, it appears in the context of, as you can see, Gay Pride Month, and I think that the preference is that it refers simply to Pride Month.
Oh, okay.
And so there's really no substitution, but just the deletion of that word. Yes, Councilor Moore.
And if I could just clarify the motion, I am specifically looking to strike it. I believe it appears 2 times, once in the title and the second time in the last paragraph where it says the town council once again fully supports the gay pride flag. We would change that to just the pride flag. And again, the intention is to be inclusive. And as was described to us, I think the term accidentally is not.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the matter? Seeing none, we have the motion before us to make that amendment to the petition. I would ask all those in favor
It's a
kindly
roll call
vote
vote.
aye.
Is it roll call vote?
I'm sorry, a roll call? I'm sorry, it is indeed for a roll call vote. My mistake.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes?
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
And Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Sorry. 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. And now the main motion is before us, and I would entertain a motion for approval.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you very much. Motion and a second. I appreciate that. Any further discussion? I see none. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes?
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
And Mr. Wood?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Resolution FY 23-006, Annual July 4th Community Celebration. And I would defer, please, to Councilor Perry for comment.
Thank you, Mr. President. We brought this up at the last meeting and voted to keep this at the council level for today, but this is a resolution just to allow the 4th of July committee in town to have a thermometer placed in front of the building here to illustrate their fundraising efforts for this year's celebration. They're in desperate need of at least $40,000 for this year's celebration. And I think that this would be a great way to help show the citizens of the community of where they stand in that situation. Because if they don't raise the funds, then the celebration will be in jeopardy. And being a former president of this committee, I felt it important to bring it up. So I do encourage the council to support this today, and I'll certainly make a motion for approval.
Thank you very much. We have a motion for
Second.
approval.
Second.
And a second, thank you. And is there discussion? And I see none. If we could kindly have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes?
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
And Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. Our next item is Order FY 23-052, Municipal Electric Aggregation. And I would be happy to defer to either Councilor Gallagher or Councilor Lindy, who were the principal proponents of this legislation, if they'd like to make any introductory comment.
Sure. It was a team effort between Councilor Gallagher, myself, and Councilor Chase. So we had a wonderful presentation at our previous meeting by Dr. Carlton Hunt about municipal electric aggregation, and what we're trying to do is explore it and, you know, if necessary, hire a consultant, ask the town manager to prepare a feasibility study in consultation with the Department of Energy Resources and move on and hopefully offer savings to all of our residents in the town if we find out that it's applicable.
Thank you very much. Councilor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just quickly, again, I think this program that was presented to us a few meetings ago is certainly a worthwhile program to explore that will help the people of Bridgewater, the residents of Bridgewater, save money on their electric bill if they choose, if the town implements this and chooses to go in this direction. I know that, I think later this month, National Grid is supposed to come out with their next 6 months of charges. So this may be a motivating factor of moving this forward if they don't see fit to lower their rates. But we need to do what we can do to help the taxpayers and residents of the town save some money on the astronomical electric bills we had to endure this past winter and continue to endure.
Well, I thank you very much, Counselor. I appreciate that. I would entertain a motion for referral of this matter to the Budget and Finance Committees.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? And seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Dr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
And Mr. Wood?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. Our next item is Order FY 23-053, Town Clerk's Salary, and I'd like to defer to Councilor George for comment.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I brought this forward. We did have some discussion in regards to the town clerk's salary. I think that Mrs. Hunt has done a phenomenal job in her term. And we looked at comparison, and bringing her up this step will bring her in line to what we feel is appropriate compensation for her skills and what she brings to the table. So that's about it.
I thank you.
Question?
Yes, Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I know this has come up before. I actually have a question for our town manager. Was this, or actually maybe for you, was there a benchmarking study done?
Yes.
And who was it conducted by?
It was done by the finance, help me out here, Mr. Dutton.
Maybe Mr. Dutton, can you respond? And let me give you a little bit of preface. I am specifically asking because this did come up in FinCom last year, and there had not been a benchmarking study done for the proposal, so it was requested that there was.
Yeah, there was one done. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but we can get back to you on that.
Yeah, we did do a benchmark study a number of years ago, and we have since used those classifications in the compensation tables with adjustments. We do adjustments to those tables every year or every 3 years. So we've adjusted, adjusted that. But this particular order does reflect pretty much exactly what other non-union personnel have received year over year, if that helps.
And I believe it was done about 3 years ago.
Okay, so so I just want to be really clear. So the benchmark study was done 3 years ago with adjustments since then?
I think it was done for more than 3 years ago, but we've made adjustments right across the board to all staff, and this fits right in with that. I will, just for the benefit of some of the new counselors, I will remind the council that the council's role here is to set the salary of the one elected official that serves in a full-time role. So that is the council's position, or that's the council's role in setting the salary. So it's
Right.
just a little quirky, so.
Yeah, definitely understand that. But like I said, because when it was presented last year, there was not a formal benchmark study that was presented to FinCom. The research had been done by the town clerk herself. So that's why I'm asking, because like any other position, there should be work conducted, whether it's, now granted, I realize these other positions would be different, whether it's a new police chief or a DPW employee. But I am all for pay equity.
Yep. No, I
But
did not.
But I'm also for, taking the proper steps to ensure that what we're approving has had its due diligence.
I wasn't aware that last year that wasn't presented. We can get back to you, and I can work with Mr. Dutton on that.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further questions? Councilor Moore?
Sure, thanks. Just a clarifying question, maybe two, actually. One is, I just wanted to confirm it is an hourly position, so we're approving the hourly rate with an expected annual spend, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And then the second is, I know you mentioned the person who's in the role right now, but the wage is for the actual role, independent of who's been elected into it, correct? So
Say that again?
it's for the position, not the person. So if someone else was elected in that in the future, this is the rate for that position.
Well,
Is that
so
correct? Just to clarify.
We've had this discussion. I don't necessarily think that we can commit to that to a new person coming in. I think that would be a discussion for someone to be elected that the council would review and set that determination. I don't know if we can set that for someone who hasn't been elected yet.
Yeah, so thanks for clarifying. So if it is tied to the person, maybe if we could, in committee, maybe just add that here, that it's
Well, I mean,
bounded by
the
the role.
position as it's filled today versus someone who comes into a new position, it would be probably paid commensurate to their experience and things of that nature. So I don't necessarily think we have the ability to earmark Mrs. Hunt for that particular one. It's the sitting town clerk today. But I think if there's a new one elected, then we have the right to look at it and establish that salary. I mean, that's just my opinion to it. If people feel differently.
No, that's
so be
helpful.
it.
So this is essentially a point-in-time salary. So this is for right now. This is the salary we're setting.
Right.
Yeah, okay. That clarifies it. Thank you.
Can I?
Thank you. Yes, Councilor Robinson.
Sorry, and that actually helps punctuate kind of what I was asking before, is that if we have a formal benchmarking process and a report around this, if it's for the individual or is it for the role? So if it's for the individual and not for the role, then we need to be really clear about that.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Lindy.
Kind of along the lines of what Councilor Robinson's saying, and benchmarks would be other elected town clerks in similar communities with a population size to Bridgewater. I hope that's where we're going with this, because I personally don't think whoever gets elected the next time should see a total difference in a salary. I mean, I think if they're going to run for that position, that's in someplace in line of where the salary should be. I mean, I know from because we're the town of Bridgewater that really has adopted the form of city government, basically the clerk here is acting as if they were a city clerk, not a town clerk. So I think it goes with the role, and I would be afraid to see it go to a much lower number commensurate with experience. I mean, you don't know who you're going to get necessarily, who's going to run for the position, okay? And, all of a sudden, if it's $45,000 a year, you're not going to get as many takers. I agree with you 100%.
Understood, and I would suspect, although I certainly can't commit that this is a fact, but I would suspect that the benchmark process would have taken consideration of some of the criteria that you've alluded to, town population and things of that sort, and not, an intangible, kind of a city versus town comparison. So I think that's a good point, but I have to imagine that that's been incorporated into the benchmark process. Any further? Yes, Councilor Moore.
If I could just sort of maybe build on my earlier comment, I also agree that I think it's best served being tied to the role. Because I think because it's an elected role, the citizens can decide to put someone in with a lot of experience or a little experience. And I don't know that we would want to be then sort of weighing in on changing compensation sort of after the fact. So I also, as this works its way through, I like the idea of us sort of tying it to the role with what we know now.
I thank you. Are there further comments or questions? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion for referral to the Budget and Finance Committees.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? And seeing none, if we could kindly have a roll call vote, please.
Sure. Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
And Mr. McKinnon? 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
I thank you.
Mr. President, just a
Yes, I'm sorry,
parliamentary question.
Councilor Wood.
Do we need roll call votes? We're all in attendance.
Well, yeah, I understand, but, well, what's coming up are a series of budget resolutions that I think might be more suitable for a roll call vote, but it's, because these are not ordinances, we actually have the ability to decide that. Would you care to?
Well, looking at the agenda, and I don't want to predict, but I suspect that some of these might go to committee.
I have a strong sense that
And
they will.
don't need a roll call vote.
So, okay. In which
I
case,
think
we
it's
could-
within the president's purview to call a roll call vote at any time, if I'm not mistaken.
That is true.
It is.
Why don't we proceed?
Do as you wish.
And the first order is FY '23, I'm sorry, FY '24-001, the fiscal year '24 annual town budget. I would defer to the town manager for comment.
Mr. President, obviously, the town budget will get plenty of airing at the Finance Committee and the Budget and Finance Committee, but just for sort of a 30,000-foot level, the budget is balanced, not without a little bit of pain, pain. This year, we saw some reductions in revenue, or at the very least, reductions in growth in revenue. Specifically, we saw a reduction or elimination, almost virtual elimination of mitigation funds. And when I say this year, I'm talking about the FY '24 budget. The elimination of mitigation funds coming from the two marijuana facilities in Bridgewater, that was governed by state law that passed in November. So we were hampered somewhat by that. The governor's local aid numbers, while some Chapter 70 funds were quite generous, double-digit percentage increases in Chapter 70, some of our unrestricted local aid numbers were fairly anemic, not keeping up with, certainly not keeping up with the high rate of inflation. So that hampered our budgets a little bit too. Our new growth, a little less than we've been projecting in the past 3 years. We pegged new growth at $739,966. New growth, for those that don't know, is the additional property that's taxable, or the additional improvements, because we don't grow more property, but we do grow buildings. Any additional buildings that hit the tax rolls on January 1st, by January 1st, are considered new growth for us each year. And also, we've, on the revenue side, we are projecting that license and permit fees are going to be flat, so we did not increase those at all. We're looking at certainly commercial property sluggishness on the real estate market, and we're also looking at a drastic slowdown in building starts right now as well. So on the expense side, really very little has changed in terms of full-time positions. We did realign one position, took it out of a revolving fund and placed it in the general fund. We added one position, a part-time position, because of the state changes in the law dictated that. Bridgewater Rainham District, our revenue share piece, and for those that are not aware of the revenue share, we project our revenues for the following fiscal year, and we split that and share with the district. Our revenue share was 3.14%. The district's assessment for the first time since we've done this was actually a bit less than the revenue share, so that excess will go into Bridgewater Schools' capital needs, or go towards Bridgewater Schools' capital needs. We saw an increase in Bristol Aggie and Norfolk Aggie, and almost a doubling of transportation costs that are assessed to the town for those schools. And finally, just on the expense side, employee benefit increases did jumped significantly, a retirement assessment, and a number of other smaller items, but mostly retirement. And we are looking at over a 10% increase in some of those or in a compilation of those line items. So we sort of hit on the revenue side, and so that drives the expense side to be pretty much flat. We are not looking at any new hiring. We're not looking at any dramatic changes on the expense side. So, but I certainly would encourage a referral to Budget and Finance Committee, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty. And for anybody that wants to come and enjoy Budget and Finance or Finance Committee meeting, you're always welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Dutton.
Motion to move to Budget and Finance Committee.
Second.
Motion and a second, thank you. Any further discussion? And seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
And Mr. Wood?
I did take the under at 8:30, but I guess you're in charge, so yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Keep talking like that, it's a guarantee.
Sorry to disappoint. Moving on, another budget matter. Budget Order FY 24-002, the 2024 Water Enterprise Fund Budget. And if I could please, Mr. Dutton.
Again, Mr. President, very few changes in the structure of all water, sewer, and transfer station. As the council knows, but I will explain, these are considered enterprise funds. An enterprise fund under Massachusetts law essentially, or DOR, essentially means it's a separate business, and the income from the business has to cover the expenses of the business. So for water or sewer or transfer, the fees that residents pay for those services goes directly to fund the budgets, the expense budgets of those enterprises. So again, water enterprise, no significant structural changes, mostly just reflects salary increases, which were, quite frankly, a little more than normal because of our effort to try to get DPW employees generally up to their peers in other communities surrounding us, and help us with very tight recruitment efforts on a lot of those open positions. So, but otherwise, pretty much structurally the same.
Thank you, Mr. Dutton. And I would entertain a motion for referral to the Budget and Finance and Finance Committees.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Moore.
Just another quick question through you to the town manager. I guess similar to the earlier comment, a lot of these increases are due to salary. And so if it's possible to get the benchmarking data so that we can see that when it comes back through, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Are there further comments, questions? And seeing none, if we could please have a roll call vote.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
And Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. Moving on to Budget Order FY 24-003, the fiscal year 24 Sewer Enterprise Fund Budget. And once again, please, if you would, Mr. Dutton.
Not a whole lot more to say about sewer that wasn't similar to water, although they are different. The only thing I will say about sewer is that Finance Department is now working on adjustments to the sewer rates. We knew this was coming when we voted water rates, which was a difficult increase, I think, for people. But it does fund improvements to the water system. In the case of sewer, we are embarking on what will end up being, over the next 5 years, about a $60 million upgrade to the sewer plant, and so the rates will increase, and the council will see a proposal for sewer rate increases, but for right now, again, the structure of the sewer is good. The structure of the budget is good. Nothing much has changed there. But you will see debt coming on in 2025 that we will have to raise rates in order to satisfy. So just, that's sort of a projecting out to 2025 while we're working on 2024, but I just want to let you know what's in the offing.
Thank you, Mr. Dutton. And I would entertain a motion for referral to the Budget and Finance Committees.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there a discussion? And seeing none, if we could kindly have a roll call vote.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
And Mr. Wood?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. Budget Order FY 24-004, the fiscal year 24 Transfer Station Enterprise Fund Budget. And Mr. Dutton, as you have anticipated, if you could kindly offer introductory comments.
The transfer station enterprise, for those that have been to the transfer station, you know that you pay a fee to be able to dispose of trash and garbage. That fee goes to fund the operation. It goes to fund the final disposal of what gets deposited or left there. It also goes to fund any amounts that we have to pay for recycling services, and goes to fund the salaries of the few people, the one person that works at the transfer station. So again, it's an enterprise fund, it's a business, and the revenues have to be able to meet the expenses there. So no significant structural changes. We are increasing some of the disposal rates to be competitive with area towns, so we'll see an increase in revenue, and we want to make sure that we are building some reserves in order to make improvements to the transfer station over the next several years. So we're going to start now by building some reserves there.
I thank you, Mr. Dutton. And I would entertain a motion for referral to the Budget and Finance Committees.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. And Councilor Wood.
Through you to Town Manager. So now that I'm a faithful user of the transfer station, I, as well as many others, know that there's a volunteer down there. And the volunteer works many hours on weekends and a couple other days. And I think that given the amount of work that this volunteer does, that this is actually an unpaid position and that it should be paid. And we had talked about increasing the salaries line somehow to include a pay for that up to this point volunteer. Were you able to do that, or are we still looking at an issue here?
We have not done that in this budget. We have increased the revenue line in order to, which reflects the increase in rates for some of the items that we dispose of, but we have not budgeted in an additional salary. But we can look at that through Budget and Finance Committee process.
I don't know exactly how many hours the volunteer works, but I'm guessing it's probably around 12, which is, a third of a employee.
And it's usually the weekend, yeah.
And usually the weekends, yeah.
Thank you, Councilor. Are there further questions? Yes, Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the town manager. So just in the recent 2-3 years, are we seeing an increase in use of the transfer station based on, various controversies on home pickup and things of that nature? Are we staying even keel? What is our trajectory with the transfer station right now?
Well, we have a new customer. No, we have seen an uptick in use of the transfer station, which is great. It's a sort of an unsung municipal service, but we have seen an increase that's been reflected in some of the revenue increases. But I can tell you that as we get revenue increases, we do see an increase in disposal costs. We probably will see a substantial increase in disposal costs as the local options begin to shrink, as they have. So the garbage business is really dynamic. It's not a static, kind of boring garbage in, garbage out kind of business. It's constantly fluctuating, and you mentioned 5 years ago, we had 6-7 different companies that service Bridgewater. I think we're down to 2 now. So there's a lot of consolidation in the business, and a lot of smaller companies are being driven out just because of the way the market is working right now. That could change tomorrow if China decided to take, all our recyclables again. We might be getting paid to get rid of recyclables instead of having to pay to get recyclables. So it is a very dynamic and always changing market, but it is being more heavily used.
Right. And we as a town are setting the rates, or who is setting the rates for Meteor?
Oh, yeah, as a town, we set the rates.
Okay, very good.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Are there further comments or questions? And seeing none, if we could please have a roll call vote.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
And Mr. McKinnon? 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. And finally, Budget Order FY 24-005, authorization of revolving funds. And Mr. Dutton, if you would care to comment?
Certainly, Mr. President, this is an annual exercise for the council to reauthorize all of the, well, there aren't that many, but the several revolving funds that we use within the town government. And just for the benefit of those that don't know, revolving funds are a little bit similar to enterprise funds in that whatever the revolving fund is set up to, whatever service or product it's set up to provide, the income from the sale of that service or that product goes into the revolving fund and is spent then to provide whatever service or product that is called for. So we only have a handful of revolving funds left, but we do require that they be reauthorized by the council every year.
I thank you. I would entertain a motion for referral to the Budget and Finance Committees.
Second.
We-
Oh, so moved. Sorry.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second? Is that right? Okay. Other questions, any comments from the council? And seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
And Mr. Wood?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. And we have a petition P 2023-028, a resolution honoring Juneteenth. And it's been brought forward by, jointly by Councilor Moore and Councilor Robinson. And I would invite either of you or both of you to offer any introductory comments that you care.
Yeah. If I could, actually, I'd like to read the full petition.
Please do.
So just for background, this is us formally recognizing Juneteenth along with the flying of the flag for Juneteenth. So whereas in 2021 and 2022, Bridgewater Communities for Civil Rights, BCCR, and First Parish Unitarian Universalist Church Bridgewater, FPUUB, hosted 2 successful Juneteenth events in Bridgewater with the support of the town of Bridgewater, the Bridgewater Public Library, Bridgewater State University, and many other members of the community. And whereas the Juneteenth Committee, in cooperation with those mentioned above in the Bridgewater-Rainham Regional School District, is currently planning a 3rd annual Juneteenth celebration. And whereas in May 2021, the town of Bridgewater designated June 19th, Juneteenth, a town holiday. And in June 2022, the town council unanimously supported the raising of the Juneteenth flag from June 15th through June 30th. And whereas the council, as leaders of our town, can have significant impact in supporting the celebration of liberty and justice for all with its support of Juneteenth 2023. And whereas symbols and seemingly small actions can have great meaning, through these actions, all who pass through Bridgewater will see that we honor the history of African Americans and recognize their contribution to American history. Now, therefore, the Bridgewater Town Council declares June 19th, 2023, a day of commemoration and celebration, and once again fully supports the Juneteenth flag to be flown with the United States flag in front of the Academy building in the town of Bridgewater from June 15th through the 30th, 2023.
Thank you very much. Councilor Robinson, would you like to add any comment?
I think the only other thing I would just add is just another thank you to BCCR and other community members who are just persistent in support and recognizing all of the members of our community, because that is who we are here to serve. So appreciate that, and appreciate support from our fellow counselors here.
Well, thank you very much. I would entertain a motion that we keep this matter on the council floor for consideration finally at our next meeting in 2 weeks.
So moved.
Is there a motion in favor of that?
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Councilor Wood?
Just a question. So I was trying to understand the significance of the pieces of the flag presented in the agenda. And when I Googled the flag, I didn't find that particular rendition. I found a lot of other ones. Is there some history around this particular rendition?
I can actually answer this.
Please do.
If that's okay.
Appreciate that.
So glad you did your due diligence and actually looked. I actually have done some work in advocacy, and so I'm really familiar with the different versions out there. You're correct. So there is a little bit of history, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but the original historical flag is very, very different. It's red, white, and blue, and actually is a little bit of a take off the Lone Star of Texas. As the years evolved, those in the black and brown communities really wanted to recognize a more Pan-African flag that had different colors to really recognize the struggles of you know, the black history struggles in this country. So that is why you see this evolution to these additional bold colors. Now, to your next point around the iterations, you're right, there's a lot of them. And so some tend to be a little bit, you know, more ornate, and some are a little bit, you know, simpler. I actually did have a conversation directly with a member of one of the organizations that is putting the Juneteenth, part of the Juneteenth committee, and she did inform me that there was very lengthy discussion between the members around which specific flag to use because of that exact question around the history. And so they actually, you know, presented all their sides and voted as a committee for those folks that are putting on the Juneteenth event. And they felt very comfortable with this recommendation to be reflective of what they wanted to portray. So I'm so glad you asked, because I had the same question as well, and I think what was really reassuring is that they, you know, they had some really healthy discussion around it, because it can be very, very personal around which version of that flag should fly. So, but hopefully the you know, the real sentiment that's coming across is the fact that it is there to honor Black Americans in this country.
Counselor, thank you so much. That was very enlightening, and quite frankly, your comments reminded me of a scene from My Cousin Vinny. You are indeed the expert that we need for that particular question, and I'm very glad that you have the details.
Another
right
take
in
on
there.
Counselor. Great movie, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Next thing you know, we'll be talking about Pawsey Track.
We have a motion and a second, and if we could have, please, a roll call vote.
Sure. Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
And Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
I thank you. We've reached the time for citizen comments at the conclusion of our council meeting, and I would invite any citizens who care to step forward to address the council, please do so. Please identify yourself by name and your street.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Lou Stone. I live on High Pond Estates on Plymouth Street. I have a comment and a thank you. The comment I have was on the recycling center. I went there today for the first time. I didn't know what to expect. What I got was very friendly people, very helpful. It was very easy to get in and out of there with no issues at all. So thank you at the recycling center. The thank you I have is for the members of the council for their vote to ask the town manager to have a feasibility study on the aggregation program when, if it gets accepted and voted in, will help every citizen of Bridgewater with their electric bills. Thank you very much. And another thank you, if I may, to the Energy Committee Chairman, Mr. Hunt. when I worked with him and gave him a lot of information, and then he went and got more information and put together that great presentation that the council agreed was very helpful. I also got permission from the president to distribute to the council members a copy of the town of Pembroke's plan, which was passed when I was on the Board of Selectmen there. So again, I thank you very much for your fast action. This is a very important program, but there was a lot of questions that needed to be answered, and you did that in short order. Thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing how this plan is going. And while I'm giving out thank yous, I'll thank the town manager as well and the president for the courtesy that I've received coming here before you. Thank you very much.
Well, I thank you very much, Mr. Stone. Your support for the energy aggregation matter has been very helpful to us and very informative, and we thank you. Are there other citizens who care to step forward to address the council? Yes, Mrs. Flesch-Cordero?
Rebecca Flesch-Cordero, 135 Deerfield Drive. I wanted to let the councilors know that I am the person with whom Councilor Robinson had the conversation about the flag. So I wanted to thank you all for investing time and energy into looking into what it is that we're doing. I also wanted to clarify that when we do these things, we engage with our constituents. So when we were raising the pride flag, we inquired of those who are more familiar with that community than, for example, I am, to see what was a good representation for them. And I'm on the flag subcommittee, as well as I'm a co-chair of the Juneteenth committee. When we went to when it came to the Juneteenth flag, which flew for the first time last year, that flag design decision was not made by the flag raising committee. It was brought to the Juneteenth committee. And there was a lot of conversation, as I mentioned, to Town Councilor Robinson around that. And I invite all of you at any time to email me or contact me via mobile. I know you all have my email address and my mobile number because I've been in touch with all of you, as Councilor Robinson and Councilor Moore did. If you have any questions around anything, because we appreciate, as I said, your support. We want you to be comfortable with any decisions that we made. And I did want to clarify that that decision was made by the Juneteenth committee, and then our committee, the flag committee, took over and did everything from there. So thank you again for your inquiries, and you have my mobile number and my email address. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there other citizens for citizen comment? Anyone else? I see none. We could move to council comments. And if I would, I'd like to begin with Councilor McKinnon.
First off, I just want to start off saying Happy Passover, Good Friday, and Easter to those who celebrate it. Wanted to give a quick little update on the town landing, or the old canoe launch there, as of this weekend or next weekend. The cement and the dirt should all be out of there, and there should be fresh loam all ready to go. But Al and his folks kind of hit a roadblock now when it comes to getting donations for the sod or for seed for the grass. I think grass is probably the better idea since half the park still has grass there, but I don't know if there's a way, anything the town could do to help with that, but I just wanted to bring that up because there was a lot of people that have put a lot of work in there. We got someone from Ashland to bring a mini excavator out there to help clear, you know. There were plenty of people that came out and helped get that all done, and I mean, I've lived on Spring Street just about my whole life, besides 3 years on Flag Street, and I've seen what that park was before, and then I saw what it turned into, and it's good to see something happening there. And last, I just want to say, hopefully the Bruins win 3 out of 5 more games, best team ever, and then next meeting, hopefully we're up 1-0 in the series, or we're playing while we're here, and if that's the case, you'll see me in the Bruins gear.
Thank you, Council. I think maybe there's a duck boat parade in our future.
I'll be
Thank
there.
you very much. I'd like to turn to Councilor George.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple things. First, I just want to say I'm very excited that we have a packed house. I think some of you were compelled to be here. But in all seriousness, hopefully you get a little taste of how town government works. It can be very long. It can also be very rewarding. So hopefully, there's a few of you out there that, when the time comes, you're sitting right here. But we'll see. I'm very, very excited at looking at all of the events that are coming up, I'd say over the next 3 or 4 months. I mean, there's just too many that are to highlight, but I really like the fact that I would probably say 10 years ago, if not a little bit longer, we had very quiet summers here. Not a lot going on, which was kind of disappointing. So with all the celebrations that are coming up that we've talked about, plus I know there are others that are going around, hopefully with the good weather coming, people will get out and actually explore Bridgewater. And just, even people that have lived here all their lives are coming across things that Bridgewater has that they weren't aware of. So hopefully that will be the case. And the last thing is, I just want to say a brief comment. I did go to the school committee meeting, the last one. It was pretty sobering in regards to their final budget ask. They had to make some pretty dramatic reductions to the point where they will not be adding to staff for the next coming year. It's unfortunate. I will say that it has nothing to do with Bridgewater's side of the house, at least as far as I know, but I think they've got their work cut out for them on the upcoming budget cycle. And also, I will say for the public record that I do fully support the debt exclusion for Bristol Plymouth. Not only is it something that I think we can absorb individually on average, but it's also a great asset to our community as well. So that's all my comments. Thank you.
And Councilor Perry.
Thank you. You stole a lot of my thunder there, but that's okay. We'll go over a couple other things.
I saw you write it down.
But no, I do actually want to recognize, we do have a packed house here tonight, and recognize the parents and leaders and the Scouts of Troop 88. I know quite a lot of them personally since I was the Cub Master for a lot of these Scouts when they were Tigers not too long ago. So it's good to see these guys. They're a lot bigger than the last time I probably saw them, but it's great to have them here tonight. I too was a Scout here in Bridgewater years ago, and it definitely led me on the course to volunteerism and certainly the work I'm doing here on the council. So hope wherever you guys go down the line that you take a similar path. I also just want to remind everyone, again, get out there on April 22nd to vote, especially, again, on this debt exclusion for BP. We do not want to see probably what's going to be happening in Rainham, because they did not vote for the debt exclusion in that town. So let's support it. It's definitely necessary. We are a part of that community, and it's important that we support them. And lastly, I did notice earlier today, I just want to extend condolences out to the family of someone I used to see here many times over the years, and Mrs. Madeline Kubiak. Just looks like she recently passed away. Her services, I think, were tonight. She was very involved, not only in our local post office, but in many town meetings, and she did a lot with what a lot of the people here are here tonight, just supporting things for the town and fighting for various things to happen. So I just want to extend condolences to her. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Perry. Councilor Moore.
Thank you. So similar sentiments. I think one of the things I love about Bridgewater is the fact that we do prioritize the education of our children. And so we've already voted for BP. We've said that that's important. So it's important for us to then fund those things that are important. So like others have said, I also support the debt exclusion, and I hope everyone does show up to show how important BP is to our community. The other thing I just wanted to highlight, over the past week I've received a bunch of emails thanking us or highlighting how good our town services are. And so I think in these meetings in particular, you often hear about some of the challenges in town. So I did want to just sort of recognize that through email, and actually even randomly in a few other towns, people have talked about how great our DPW is, our Council on Aging, and our police department. So I just wanted to highlight the fact that people have had really good experiences with those three groups. And then lastly, to the folks that have joined us today, like others have said, these sorts of meetings can be long and sometimes maybe a little bit boring depending on what your interests are. But one thing that I hope you do recognize is that the things that we bring into the town and the ideas that get passed here originate in the seats that you're in. So people that are in the town think of new things that they want, and they approach us, they ask for our support, and we learn about those things through their involvement. And so you heard some people today speak about the things that they're passionate about, and those ideas turn into passion from us. So if you do have ideas, there is no age limit on ideas. I encourage you to reach out to a counselor and share your ideas and see if you can get some support. But thank you for coming. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Robinson?
I'll just echo the sentiment to thank so much for, thank you so much to everyone who showed up tonight, and especially for our young people, whether you were compelled or not. We appreciate seeing you. So that's it. I think everybody else covered it, so I'll pass it on.
Thank you. And Counselor Lindy?
I'll be brief. Echoing the comments, I'd like to see the citizen participation that we have here at the beginning and end of every meeting. I think it's very important, and it helps us. I'm thankful that Bridgewater is welcoming diversity and inclusion, and those events will showcase those. I also, as a former member of a different regional vocational school committee, strongly encourage people to vote for the debt exclusion. BP is a treasure and a gem, and we want to make sure it stays that way in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Gallagher?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of things tonight that I wanted to highlight, and that is we do have one more meeting before these next two topics I'm going to talk about, so I will also talk about these things in 2 weeks. But I wanted to make sure we stayed here till at least after 8:30. Anyway, Saturday, April 22nd is our town election, and I think, there's not a lot of people running for office in the sense of competition, but we do have people that have filled all the positions, which is good. But I think the most important issue on the ballot is the debt exclusion for the Bristol Plymouth High School. The trades are very, very important. And I grew up in a family of 8 kids, and I have 4 brothers and 3 sisters. And my father instilled on 3 of the brothers to go to the Southeastern Regional Vocational Technical High School. One of them went and became a plumber, electrician, and welding. And I had a sister that went there and became a dental assistant. So they're very, very important. When it came to me, they didn't know what to do. So those trades are not me. That's why I call plumbers, and I call electricians, and I call service organizations to help me with projects that I can't handle. Because to me, I push paper, and I still push paper today. So it's very, very important. The trades are important to our community. They're important to people that are looking to purchase a home and need those specialties that they're not able to do. So I encourage everyone, no matter what the vote is, we're going to have to pay for it. Wouldn't it be better to pay for it through a debt exclusion than to decimate our budget? I also want to talk about on April 28th, we will have a townwide cleanup. Wind Waste Management has again volunteered to donate a dumpster, trash bags, gloves, all the material we need to walk around the center of town and other areas in town that you choose. I'm sorry, it's April 29th, sorry, I had the date wrong. But it's that Saturday, right? It's a Saturday. Saturday, April 29th will be the townwide cleanup, and we'll meet right here at the Academy Building, and we'll try to get the word out. So any volunteers that want to come down to help clean up our town. So as we move forward with May and June and other summer events, the town will look a lot more cleaner, and the greenery will show up better. And I'm looking forward to the April 11th event at BSU, because we do have a lot to talk about and a lot of issues relative to our downtown and downtown revitalization. I think it's very, very important. And with the new economic development director on board, I think it's important to have that workshop because, there are some critical areas in our downtown that have been, sagging, as we all know, for several years, and we need to come up with a plan. I'm looking forward to our Budget and Finance Committee meetings as we debate the budget, and I know we had Troop 88 here tonight. We had a pretty civil meeting tonight because we didn't have anything controversial to talk about, but wait till this $72 million budget comes back. Then we'll have a lot to talk about in a civil way. So yeah, $72 million, which does not include our enterprise accounts, is what this town spends to run the services and so forth. So I'm looking forward to that every year. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
I thank you. And Councilor Wood.
Thank you. Couple more meetings, one more meeting, I guess, after this for me. So I'll start off like everyone else, the BP vote. Really a critical thing. I hope we can all get the word out there because if the town did support building a new school, now we need to support funding it. And if we don't fund it out of a debt exclusion at about, I think the average is going to be $33 a year, which is highly affordable. We're going to be more like Rainham, which said no to the debt exclusion, and now they're going to fund it out of their operations. So maybe they have one less firefighter or one less police officer or more, or maybe they can't next year give as much to BR because they have to pay for BP out of their operations. So it's really critical to get out. I will also note, driving through other towns, you see a lot of signs now. This is the season for town elections. You see signs for, running for rec committee, running for planning board, running for something like that. I really believe in this form of government in that we find really good candidates to fill our spots, and we, vet them out through a committee that the town manager has, and then he presents the candidate, and we have a chance to ask questions if we want, and then, we make appointments. And I think that's a better process overall because you find highly qualified individuals that really want to step up and do the job. Unfortunately, though, in the town of Bridgewater, you don't see a lot of signs at the election time. So Susie's running unopposed, as far as I know. Mark's running unopposed, as far as I know. Paul Murphy is running unopposed, as far as I know. And so there's a couple other positions on the ballot, but typically within the 30 days before an election, you see signs start to pop up. It reminds people that it's time to vote. And so I think for everybody that's listening, just tell your neighbor, hey, come out and vote on April 22nd. It's really critical for a number of reasons. A week ago, I went to I think it's quarterly, but it's the first one, a parks discussion. It was more a roundtable than anything else. And we talked about Stiles and Hart, which, as people know the history, we added on 5 acres a couple years ago, and now we're talking about hopefully adding on a couple more lots to round off the piece. And we talked about the bridge and dam at High Street, and we talked about some of the other parks that are going on. Again, John Hart has now been appointed. We did this a couple months ago to be the park steward, the overall park steward. Harry's the park steward for Stiles and Hart, and there's a couple other park stewards that handle things. So really this is starting to take shape again, where we have a park system, we have a Parks and Rec department that can oversee things, and then we can talk about funding different projects and getting it all. So, it's taken a long time to get to here at this point, but it's good. I also want to thank the audience. I don't think anyone left early tonight. That's not often the case. Often people take advantage of the first comment section and then take off, which is reminiscent of the old, open meeting process where as soon as their vote was done, the group would leave. So I'm glad that the scouts and everyone else could stay around and listen in. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
I thank you, Councilor Wood. I would just like to echo a number of the comments that the councilors made this evening. I thought it was an especially productive meeting because I think we focused on, as you know, not only the some of the hard number issues, the initial look that we have at the proposed budget for the town for the coming year, but also a number of very important issues that were really originated from citizen engagement. And a number of us have mentioned, I think partly but not exclusively for the benefit of the Scouts here in our attendance tonight, that citizen engagement is always very important to us, and it's really how many important initiatives develop, not only in this town, but in any town. So we're very glad to see you folks here tonight, all of you, and the fact that you've chosen to stay for the duration. We hope you'll come back when we have a 3 or 4 hour meeting, too. We do that once in a while. But seriously, it's great to see you here tonight. It was a nice surprise to see the Scouts and the Scout leaders show up, and we were very eager to have you participate and join in our session tonight. So thank you very much. Just remember, you can always join a council meeting here. So feel free to, don't be a stranger. Do return. I don't have further comments right now. I think the council members have covered a lot of important items in their comments closing this evening. So I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion and a second. Thank you.
8:30 on the dot.
Maybe a voice vote would be appropriate for this item. All those in favor of adjournment? Say
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. We are adjourned.